Hey guys, so today I wanted to tackle a different kind of topic, but a topic that is close to my heart, and that is vitiligo. Let me give you a brief definition if you don't know what this is. It's a skin condition that affects your skin pigment, so that means that somewhere on your skin you can develop some brighter and fairer patches of skin, and your skin loses pigment. So if you have a fair skin, it's less visible to the eye, but if you have a darker skin tone, naturally it shows its off a bit more. If you have vitiligo, you'll start seeing patches of fair skin around your knuckles, on your limbs, on your belly, on your face, yeah? And even sometimes hair can be affected, whether it be your hair or just your body hair. It becomes white if it's affected by the patch of vitiligo. So that condition varies from one person to another. You'll have persons that have a very structured vitiligo. For instance, it looks very symmetrical on their faces or on their bodies, but other people can have either patches on one side of their face or on one limb, or it's said that around 2% of the population has it. You might know some celebrities that have and that had that condition. For instance, there were Michael Jackson. He was said to have the condition before he got his skin whiter. It was something he was upset about. Apparently, there's also Winnie Arlo. She's a model that looks amazing, and she is an example of vitiligo that looks a bit more symmetrical. When it comes to health, it doesn't really have an impact on your health. The only upsetting thing is that you get more sensitive to the sunlight, and you are required to apply sunscreen a bit more often and a bit more heavily. Otherwise, your skin gets red and itchy, and that skin condition is merely something that alters your appearance and your physical appearance. It's not really bad for your inside health. I won't go into details, but I've made some research to corroborate what I already know about the condition, to dig a bit more info about what can cause that condition and what is the source of it. So that vitiligo condition is either dormant, that means that you have it in your genes because of your ancestors and parents, and at some point it can appear and it can make its impact on your skin. Or sometimes you have it in your genes but it remains dormant for your whole life, and scientists are not too sure, but sometimes they're not even sure that you have vitiligo genes. You have vitiligo genes, and it can appear in some phases of your life that are quite traumatic or stressful or important, and many doctors and scientists have seen that stressful experiences and moments can definitely have an impact on vitiligo and on the appearance of patches and on their development. Also, if you are an anxious person, and if you keep things for yourself, if you're not the kind of person who wants to share his or her emotions, it can be kind of bad for your mental health first, but also for vitiligo, because your secret emotions and your quiet emotions end up showing off on your skin. Now let's move on to my family story around vitiligo. I've always seen my dad with vitiligo patches on his face and on his hands and knuckles. He doesn't have vitiligo that looks quite symmetrical, it's quite random. When he was younger, he had a fair skin like mine, but because he is an outside worker, he works in gardens and stuff, is constantly under the sunlight and under UVs. So even if he applies sunscreen a lot, he gets a bit tanned, and he has gotten tanned along the years. So his vitiligo has gradually appeared and has gradually progressed. His sister, my aunt, she also has this skin condition, and my grandma as well. But for my grandma, it's less visible as she has a fairer skin than my dad and my aunt, and even it's less spread out, I guess. Don't know why, but it's less intense. However, my aunt is a bit more impacted than my dad. She has a vitiligo patch almost all over her face. There's only the limit between her natural skin color, like over there, but otherwise the patch is like a mask on her face. She has larger patches on her limbs. She has to apply a lot of sunscreen every time she goes outside, and she gets reds very easily, and it's kind of painful. So before, I've mentioned the psychological impact of your brain on that condition. My dad and my aunt have always been the kind of people who didn't really know how to express their feelings, and they were quiet most of the time. They were raised in a, before, I feel like it was more common to be quiet about your feelings and not to go see psychiatrists or shrinks, or to have therapy was a bit more taboo at the time in the generation of our grandparents. And I think that for our parents' generation, it started to change a bit, and mindsets started to change, and people were feeling less bad about going to the shrink. It was not something to be shameful about, and it's not something to be shameful about. That mindset of them definitely made their vitiligo progress a lot. I've seen my dad's condition really develop when he had struggles with his ex-girlfriend, who is my younger half-brother's mom. He didn't really defend himself, and he kept things a lot inside of him. But now he has evolved and is a bit more, he knows to be more honest and to defend himself a bit more. But that's too late, let's say, because his vitiligo has already spread it out a lot. It's not reversible. Well, I guess that if you lose your tan a bit, it makes your vitiligo show off less and be less visible to the eye, but it's not a reversible condition. Sometimes you can have treatments or pills or something. I've seen that on websites that can slow the process down, but it does not really prevent vitiligo from appearing. It's not sure. When it comes to my aunt, it's the same as my dad. She's always been a very anxious person, and she sometimes doesn't know how to deal with her anger and her anxiety. So she bites her nails a lot and her skin around the fingers, and her vitiligo is really spread out. It's always been a concern of hers. Now let's talk about me. Secondary school was a very hard time for me. I was verbally bullied because I was on the smart girl side, and I was a bit plumpy. I was not overweight, but I was on the limit of being overweight. I was still on the normal weight scale side. You know, kids, they are very uneducated and they are very mean, so it was a very hard period for me, and I was very shy. I'm still very shy, but I've made a lot of progress. So my self-esteem was really at its worst at the time. That's when I started seeing vitiligo patches appear on my body, and I'd say that the first one I've seen was the one I have on my thumb. I think that you can even see it from afar, but I'll insert some close-ups of my patches now. I have now. The first one I've seen at the time was this one. It was less spread out, and yeah, I have one on the thumb as well that's quite visible. You've seen me, my skin is pretty fair, so the patches were not too visible to the eye, but it still made me a lot anxious and bad and upset. Now for the official diagnosis, I went to a dermatologist around that time, around secondary school. I had to lay down on a table thing, and he used a special UV lamp to, all around my body surface to see where were the hidden patches and the dormant patches that could eventually appear at one point of my life. As he was using the UV lamp and moving it around, he was saying at the same time where were the patches of vitiligo, and I gradually felt very bad and very anxious. It was not a fun time. But again, I was at a point of my life when I felt very insecure. So vitiligo was another thing that added up to my physical concerns, I'd say. So basically, he saw patches around my mouth, he saw ones on my dark eyes area. You might see them. I mean, they are not really noticeable because they blend in my dark eye region, so it's as if I had fairer dark eyes, so that's not too noticeable. But yeah, I saw one big patch around my mouth and on my chin there that sometimes appear when I get a bit more tanned. So obviously the patch on my hand, the left hand is less attacked, I'd say. Can you see something? I don't see any patch for the moment. I have some small patches on my elbow areas on both sides. I also saw a patch on my pelvic/hip region. I'll show you a pic, but it's like a very round and oval patch. I was half naked, so I still had my panties on by myself, so that I had a patch going around my meow area. It was very bad news for me. I was not at a good stage of my life at all for self-confidence. So the dermatologist only advised me to make sure to apply sunscreen and avoid sunlight if I wanted my patches to appear less and be less painful and inconvenient. So what was the aftermath of that diagnosis and that time? So ever since I got that diagnosis, I always made sure to avoid the sunlight as much as I could. I'm usually the kind of girl who hates sun tanning and gets quite bored at the beach. I've never really liked, even before sun tanning in the sun, and I'm not really a person who bears the heat. Those news were an excuse for me to stay in the shadows of a tree or not to go to the beach. Because on top of that, I was still insecure in my body. I was still insecure, in my skin, regardless of vitiligo. So I didn't really like being in a bikini and in a swimsuit. So those were two excuses for me not to go out at the beach. But even when I gained a bit more self-confidence, I never really went to the beach, and my closest friends are not really the persons who like going to the beach as well. My boyfriend now is the kind of guy who likes going to the beach from time to time, so I made the effort to go with him, but I make sure to stay in the shadows and to avoid the heat and the sunlight, the sun rays. Otherwise I sweat and I get tanned, and I don't want to get tanner. In the first years after the first patch appearance and patch, I definitely grew more confident. It came along with my self-confidence work and introspection and development. It was a positive side of my construction and my introspection work. I also learned to feel grateful for only having that skin condition, because it's not terrible to have. It's just mainly a physical issue, and it's just something that alters your appearance. But it's not the really worse things on earth. There are really worse conditions and worse disabilities. It's really nothing to have vitiligo. It's just have to be careful to the sun rays and apply sunscreen, and you have to feel good in your own shoes, and not care about other people's looks on you. But even though I still feel quite insecure about vitiligo, it does not make me hide my arms or hide my legs. I don't care. For the moment I only have the patches on my elbows, but still I don't care. I just make sure to daily apply sunscreen on my face for obviously anti-aging purposes, but also to avoid getting tanner and to prevent my face patches from appearing more, because at some point of my life I was a bit more tanned, and that region of vitiligo was really visible, and it still made me a teeny tiny bit insecure. I've made that video to give you some knowledge if you didn't know about that skin condition, and also to raise awareness and change mindsets, hopefully, in my own way. I only gave you some vague info about the skin condition and how it's and what it is and how it's what it's caused by, but I'll insert some links in the description box too, if you are curious about the condition, if you want to know more and have more details. Mindsets have to change, not only about vitiligo, but about other visible conditions and other visible disabilities, because even in our modern day, some people are still pointing out at other people who visibly have disabilities and who have physical peculiarities, and I personally think that it's very disrespectful, and some people in that category are very uneducated due to their parents' education, and some others are just mean and they just want to some of them have an ego imbalance, and either they feel too self-confident or too bad in their own skins, so they want to get other people's down just for the sake of feeling better. And that's again something I'm really against, and I really consider being horrible. Some people might not realize it, but if you are not self-confident enough and if you don't have that helmet and that protection, that invisible protection to not to care about other people's opinions, it's horrible for your mental health. For instance, my auntie, she's now almost 60 and she still feels very bad about having vitiligo. When she was younger and when the patches started appearing on her a lot, people were kind of mean, and because she's in the countryside, people are more or less educated about the world's variety of conditions and variety of disabilities and the uniqueness of people, so they are not very nice. And even in cities, people are still not very nice and not educated enough and not respectful on purpose. Perhaps I'm having unrealistic plans, but I'd love kids and youngsters to be more educated on the topic in school, or I'd love them to know more about respect, about disabilities, and I want people to know that, and people to be conscious that we are not the same. And even though magazines and social media sometimes show us a norm to reach, it's not healthy at all, and it's not a sane way to think. It'd be too boring to look the same, to be honest. And even if we wanted to all look the same, we'd have some aspects of us that would make us differ still from one another. We are born with unique traits, and even if we don't have a skin condition or a disability, or a visible disability or an invisible one, because sometimes disabilities are only impacting the inside and not visible to the eye. We still are born with different noses, different faces, different body shapes, different bone structures, different hairstyles, different hair textures and hair colors, and so on and so on. So we are all different, regardless of additional skin conditions or additional unique details on us. We can't all fit in the same box. We are all normally abnormal. That's all I have to say. We should be proud of our peculiarities and what makes us unique. We all are on different sides of the spectrum, and we shouldn't be on the same. And we are not. It's not possible to be on the same level. We are all different. We have different genes and DNAs. So we have to celebrate our bodies and feel grateful for what we have. There's way more important things in life than your appearance. The inner side of yourself is way more important than the outside, even if society makes you think the contrary. If you want to, wear a special color, or if you want to, be a bit more daring with your appearance, please do whatever you want. Life's too short to care about other people's opinions. And it's such a weak move to make fun of other people's physical traits. So as I said, I'll insert some links if you want to dive a bit more into the vitiligo skin condition and what it is. The links are going to be in the description box. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm in the beginning of an era in which I'm going to be very culturally focused and knowledge focused and brainy focused. I want to use my voice, as awkward as I am and as simple as I am, to talk about some topics that can be quite interesting and that are meaningful to me and that I'm interested about. So in the future you might see some videos about some topics, specific topics like art or yeah, that's only what came to my mind just now. In the meantime, I wish you a great day or a great week, depending on the time when you watch that video, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.